think if you go all the way back even to the Barcelona pavilion, you have to say it's a pretty straight line from there to here. And even if at one point he's building in Spain, another point he's in Germany before the war, then another point he's in America, and then now he's building here in Berlin, there is something consistent between all his projects. And of course, the more civic buildings are different to the more domestic buildings. But I would say even then, clearly this idea of exaggerating qualities, emphasizing, reducing, these are all consistent through all the work, and that's why I think he's such an important architect. Mies's work is quite unique within the history of modern architecture in the sense that I think Mies was much more interested in the traditional qualities of architecture than many of his other contemporaries. He was interested in how you build. He was interested in the substantial and, in a way, classical concerns of architecture: space, light, material. These were all important to him. A lot of modern architecture was much more about image and silhouette and these things. But Mies was, in a way, strangely old-fashioned, given that he was probably the most radically modern of all of the heroes of the modern movement. From its opening days, this space was always criticized. It doesn't have the normal characteristics that you curators want for art. It's too much light. It's quite difficult to divide. It's very heroic. So you could say it doesn't function very well. Except, what does it mean, function? Because I think you have to think about the museum as having many functions. So of course it begins with the protection of objects, the display of objects, making those objects look beautiful. But the museum also has a role in society, in a community. It has to become a civic building somehow. So it has to have a relationship to the city as well. That's an important part of its function. And it's also a place where people meet. And especially after the war, in 1968, the rebuilding of Berlin, in a way, West Berlin. So I think the heroic dimensions, the optimism of this. And then you have to think that the museum is two museums. What's in the Sokol, which is 80% of the museum work is there. This is the advertisement for the museum in a way. So I think if you put these things together, let's say three things: the garden, the Sokol, and the temple, I think it works very well as a museum, and time has shown it has worked. Even if there are curatorial difficulties with it, there are technical difficulties with it, I think the reason why this project of restoration was taken so seriously was because the building has proved itself to be important to the city of Berlin. The idea of the sort of master architect, I think, is something of the past. And I think we have to learn to work in a much more collaborative way, a way which is much more consensual and integrated, much closer to what people need, further away from investment as the motivation, more clearly, more motivated by concerns of global warming and environment, and of community, of how to make sure the city is a place for people, not just for investors. So these ways of operating, the way of operating in the future, I think, has to address these challenges, because architects have become a little bit separated from these discussions. Designing monuments is only a very small part of architectural responsibility. We do need designers of monuments, but we also need designers of environment. And I think I would focus the next generation more on that than building monuments. But where that comes from, I'm not sure, but it certainly requires us to slightly refocus on process. You know, I'm an old-fashioned architect. I believe in buildings like this, and I believe in the quality, physical quality of architecture. But I also believe in the social idea of architecture and public space and the built environment. And that's something which the next generation really has to address better than we did.